How can I avoid some children being written off? Well, unfortunately, even in today's schools where there's more inclusion than ever before, and there's a real focus on making sure that working class kids and those from disadvantaged backgrounds don't get written off, it still happens. I know because I was one of them. As a teenager, I was full of this kind of huge anger because I could see that others around me, things seemed to come easier to those. They didn't have the barriers to learning, of being the eldest of 8 children in the house. With nowhere to work, with a mum who was working so hard that she couldn't support me in the way that I needed. There was a lack of understanding around the challenges that I faced at home. And I also was faced with quite a lot of low expectations as a teenager as well. I remember particularly an interview with a careers advisor who, when I expressed that I'd like to be a national newspaper journalist, almost laughed in my face and told me that kids that come from the estate that I was from, they just didn't do that. I left school in 1999, so some may say, things have changed since then. But as an educator in a school, I still see things like this happening now. I think as a society, really, and definitely in education, we're still failing to serve the needs of every single child. Some of the statistics are quite worrying, to be honest. By the time that students leave primary school, the gap between the free school meals children and the peers in literacy, writing and maths is huge. By the time they get to secondary school, the most disadvantaged are an average of 2 years behind their learning. The OECD did a study in 2017, which showed that particularly girls in the top 10% for attainment, who were also in the bottom 10% for income, with an average of 3 years behind their more well-off peers. I was that bright but poor kid, and I'm passionate now to make sure that no child gets left behind in today's education system. I think the most important thing we can do, first of all, to try and stop this is to recognise that being working class is not a failure. We need to recognise, and that this can be hard sometimes because we believe in what we're teaching, that the curriculum itself has an inbuilt middle class prejudice. The whole cultural reference in the exams, particularly my subjects in English, relate to middle class experiences about theatre, about classical music, about politics, current affairs, travel, all of these things that are very middle class. We need to be breaking down the barriers to learning by helping the working class kids have similar experiences as their middle class counterparts. We need to give them the opportunity to gain the knowledge that they need to be able to understand the cultural references in exams, but don't bulldoze. It's not about forcing out working class culture. Students have to see themselves in their work as well to really take it on board and understand it. I think also as well, we need to stop promoting university as the only success that students can have. Of course, make sure university is there for those that want to go and enable them to visualize themselves in that kind of atmosphere. We need to be aspirational, but it isn't the only option. As educators, we need to provide more vocational opportunities as well as academic. Encourage students to be ambitious in whatever form that actually takes. It doesn't necessarily have to be the traditional going away and doing A-levels and going to university. Most importantly for me, really, in making sure that no child is left behind, is being able to build that sense of self, that sense of belonging. For too long, students have been told that, if you don't achieve a grade 4, you are a failure. And at the moment, I'm doing a PhD, and my thesis will be about, children getting left behind who have to resit in college, and to go through that kind of debilitating humiliation of never being able to pass that exam, because all they've been taught is that grade 4 is the be all and end all. Any grade at GCSE is a pass, whether that be a 1, a 2 or a 3. Some students will never be able to pass their English and maths, no matter how much we plough into them. We've got to encourage students to do the very best that they can. And if that isn't a grade 4, well, we need to take away that stigma of failure so that they can build some self-efficacy, some sort of self-confidence in them as a literate learner. As educators, we must strive to create the opportunities that build character, drive, resilience for all children, regardless of where they come from.